Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's government committed itself to recapture the Falkland Islands. A naval task force was sent from Plymouth, and this newspaper front cover summed up the mix of British feelings about this unexpected war. The headline deliberately echoes the second Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back, but also harks to Britain's past as a great imperial power. However, the cooperation of US intelligence was an important factor in the success of the campaign. 2 RAF Vulcan bombers designed to carry nuclear weapons bombed Port Stanley, the Falklands capital, dropping conventional payloads. Keeping RAF aircraft with enough fuel to operate at such a distance from Britain was a major technical achievement. Only 10 RAF Harrier fighters were lost during the campaign. Air Liaison Officer Bob Iverson was on a bombing raid when his aircraft was hit by Argentine fire. He says, "I saw the flame and pulled the eject handle instantly. Hiding in heather for an hour and a half from the Argentine helicopter searching for him, he took shelter in a deserted farmhouse. I didn't really sleep," Iverson said. "I was sitting up watching the war. You can see the shells in the air at night. When things quietened down, I broke radio silence and transmitted my position in code. By the time the helicopter came to pick me up, I was cooking myself a full English breakfast." The Argentines were defeated, but British strategy changed as a result. A new base was built on the Falklands to deter Argentinian aggression. Plans to scrap the Vulcan bombers were reversed. In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became leader of the Soviet Union. He attempted to reform communism from within and thaw relations with NATO countries. Agreements were made to cut back on nuclear weapons. Then communism itself began to collapse. Soviet-controlled countries in Eastern Europe became democracies in 1989. When the RAF took part in the Western campaign to expel Iraqi forces from Kuwait in the Gulf War in 1991, the Soviet Union even supported this effort as an ally. In 1991 too, the Soviet Union was itself dissolved. All this appeared to be a triumph for Western countries. It was as if they had won a world war without having to fire a shot. Instead of 2 superpowers threatening the destruction of the world with nuclear weapons, there was now only one, the United States. Part of the Soviet Union, the Russian Federation, was left as a weak democracy, but still armed with nuclear weapons. The rapid collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War took NATO completely by surprise. The assembled NATO air forces in Europe now faced no enemies. One historian claimed that it was the end of history and that democracy had triumphed. Politicians looked to make deep defence cuts as part of a peace dividend, just like they had in 1918, 1945, and after 1957. Through the 1990s, RAF bases in Germany were closed. Former communist countries in Eastern Europe gradually joined NATO, but the Air Force was still kept busy. Women were admitted as pilots for the first time to the RAF in 1990. It dropped humanitarian supplies in Iraq, Samoa, Somalia, and the Balkans. It also took part in action with NATO allies in 1999 against Serbia, and also in Iraq, protecting Kurdish rebels against the Iraqi government. All these involvements were on a relatively small scale. It seemed that although parts of the world were unstable, there was no serious challenge to the power of the United States and its allies.